Hello, and welcome back to the second part of your first success session in your time with Blue Water Middle College. So, this little chunk is just about the SAT and just kind of the testing in general and the point of it all and why you should prepare. Um, and really, the equation that the more you prepare, the better you're going to do. So, that's time well spent. So, when we're talking about the SAT, it's actually part of a bigger testing that you do as an 11th grader. So every 11th grader across the state of Michigan is taking the MME, the Michigan Merit Exam in 11th grade, and it consists of three smaller exams. So the SAT is the college entrance exam. That's going to be the main point of what I'm talking about today because that is the one that's most beneficial to you. The ACT Work Keys is a job skills assessment that sometimes people confuse because the SAT and the ACT are both college entrance exams. And so sometimes people are like, I took both the SAT and the ACT. But what you actually are taking, just cross out ACT at the beginning of that in your mind and say you're taking the SAT and the work keys. So work keys is a totally different thing. It's not the college entrance exam version of the ACT. It's just a job skills assessment. So it's another little test kind of asking you to do a little bit more real world stuff to see what you would be like on the job as far as your reading, math skills, locating information, like looking at a chart and being able to say, whatever it is that they're asking. The third piece of the MME is the M step, which is something that I think you do pretty regularly. Those are the ones that you do online. And actually, you do all of these online now. And all of these are held kind of in April and May. And those are at varying dates. There used to be just kind of one main date that the SAT school day test was given in April, but now they have a window of time where they can have you take that. So your home high school will let you, or your home high school will let you know all the exact dates for all of these in probably the next month or two. But all this will happen not until April, basically. So if you attend one of the partner high schools, Algonac, Capac, Memphis, Yale, VLA, Port Huron High, or Port Huron Northern, you will take all of these tests at your home high school, and they will tell you all the information, the what, when, where you're going to be in so and so's class, the day of the test, and these are the times. This is when you need to be there. This is the date, all of it. They're going to give you all that info. If you do not attend one of the partner high schools because you're with us full time as like an unaffiliated or a homeschool student, then you will take all of these assessments with us, with Blue Water Middle College on campus here at SE4. Here in the, well, you don't see that I'm in the room that we had seminar and orientation. You actually take all those tests right here in that room. So you should feel fairly comfortable in here. You've been here quite a bit. Mr. Ruiz will send you information about that, similar to, at your partner high schools, you'll get information about the dates and how it will all work, basically. The big thing we want to just kind of hit home is there is a huge benefit to doing some preparation at the very least, and as much time as you can give. There are direct correlations between the number of hours that people spent on preparation for the SAT is directly correlated to scores and higher scores. And the higher your score on the SAT, the more choice you have about what colleges you can attend, basically who's going to accept you, and the amount of money that you can get in scholarships. Lesser, but sometimes important things is that you can use your SAT scores for placement in English and math classes at SE4. There is another test for that as well, AccuPlacer. I'm going to talk a little bit more about those when we are next together in April before registration opens. And then another reason to kind of practice and prepare is this might not be the last big test that you have to take in your life. Depending on what you're going into as a career, it could be the last big test you have to take in your life. But depending on the field, there are a lot of certification or licensing exams that you would need to take more tests for, unfortunately. Um, so it's just kind of getting good practice at prepping for those. The big thing of why it matters is that when you apply to a 4-year school, when you are wrapping up your time with Blue Water Middle College, you are applying as a freshman, and Blue Water Middle College is your high school. So that might seem like, what does that even make sense? Well, how am I a freshman? I would think that I would be a transfer because I'm going to have an associate degree. I'm going to have 60 credits done. That to me has always been a transfer student. And yes, but the fact that you are doing that while you're still in high school is the 4-year schools in Michigan have all said, we consider you a freshman as long as you have not taken college classes after high school graduation. You don't officially graduate until the end of your 13th year, and they even include the summer following graduation in that. So as long as you are still in Blue Water Middle College and taking college classes, you'd be applying as a freshman. And the point of that is because it's 2-year benefit. There's a bigger pool of money for merit scholarships for freshmen than there are for transfer students. And the requirements are slightly different from freshmen to transfer students. And so the scholarship awards are a little bit different. I worked with a student who we looked at his high school GPA, which you can see here is your Blue Water Middle College is your high school. Your Blue Water Middle College transcript will have both your high school classes that you took at your home high school and your college classes that you took at SE4. And both of those are going to be included in your GPA calculation. Another thing is that we do not weight we don't weight the grades for like AP classes or college classes. So it's all just straight up unweighted grades. So you are on a scale of 4.0 instead of like um, if you're at a high school that weights AP classes or things like that, then you're on a 5.0 scale. Um, so when colleges are looking at if they're going to accept you, the two main things they're looking at is your high school GPA and your SAT score. So your admission depends in large part on that. So you really, really want to make sure that you're not just kind of like winging it when you take the SAT and then later feeling like, oh, I wish I had maybe tried a little bit more because another couple 100 points and I'd be eligible for this whole other school and higher scholarship money. So this is just a little chart to show you kind of the averages across the state of Michigan, colleges in Michigan, and their average GPA range and their average SAT range for the students that they admit each year. So you can see Hillsdale and U of M are both pretty high. I think Kalamazoo College is kind of bumped up there as well. Where their typical student they're applying that they are accepting each year has a 3.8 or higher and a 1350 or higher. Um, and then it kind of goes from there. Like the next kind of tier is looking at a 3.5 to a 3.8 and an 1130 to a 1380 and so on. So look at this chart and find, okay, I was thinking Eastern, so I'm going to need 1,000. I want to get 1,000 on that SAT. My GPA is a 3.5, so I'm going to be on the high end of that. I'm going to be sitting pretty as far as can I guarantee I'm going to be admitted, and then the scholarship stuff I'll be eligible for eventually when you get admitted there. So on the flip side, this is not to say if Michigan is the dream and you have a 3.5 that you have to give up that dream. That is absolutely not the case. What it's saying instead is you really want to make sure that you crush it on the SAT because that SAT can pull up your record for, like if you're on a little bit of the lower end on the GPA, the SAT can be what kind of saves you in terms of the admission process. Um, a lot of times I'm hearing students like, well, where I want to go doesn't even require the SAT. And that may be the case now or at that time, or it might not. Um, when we're talking about schools being test optional, that became a thing during COVID, which we're now 5 years since the start of that, right? So a lot of schools have started requiring it again. Some schools have been saying like we were actually thinking about removing it as a requirement anyway. There is some bias. The test isn't perfect, or they just maybe don't feel that it really applies to their student body, or whatever the case. There were schools that were thinking they were already going to do away with that requirement or use it as like an extra thing. Um, and so some of those still will probably never require it again, but some have brought it back or will. And then there are some that they're saying they're test optional for admission. So you don't necessarily need to include it. They're just going to basically just be looking at your GPA and whatever essays you write and whatever stuff you've done for extracurriculars and your interests and all of that. They say they look at the whole student. So some schools are saying we don't need it for admission, but it is required for scholarship eligibility. So it's worth it to do your best and do the preparation. Also, I've had students say, well, this school doesn't require it. They probably never will. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. But what if you decide on another school? What if you change your mind about what you want to do and that's only offered at a school that has slightly higher requirements? So you just don't know, right? You still have 2 years before you're going to start these college applications. So things could change where you might have a new opportunity that you're like, dang, that would be good if I had a little bit higher SAT score. Now, the option will exist. You can retake the SAT, and I will bug you through the years to think about that and do that probably. Especially since this first time you're taking it is free. It's paid for. You don't have to pay money for that. That's an amazing opportunity that didn't exist when I was in high school or when your parents were in high school. We used to have to pay to take these exams. So you have this free option. You might as well do the prep and try to have that score be as high as possible. This is just an example of kind of what we're talking about when we say freshman scholarships or merit scholarships. Basically, all the colleges in Michigan have this little chart where they have kind of levels of scholarships. And they might say, like the Platinum Presidential Scholarship is saying if you have a 3.9 GPA or above and you have a 1450 on the SAT or higher, you get $12,000 a year in scholarships. Obviously, those are very high numbers, right? The average person's probably not dealing with all of this, but some of you might and will be. So when you think about it, you have a 3.9 GPA, your SAT score could make the difference between getting $12,000 a year to $9,000 a year to 5,500 a year to this light yellow is 3,500, the darker yellow 2,500 down to 1,500, right? So you can have a 4.0 GPA, but your SAT score is going to be the difference of thousands of dollars. Most of us are probably dealing a little bit, over in this range to the left or down lower with the GPA, but you just want to make sure that your GPA kind of matches your SAT score. So if you have a high GPA and a low SAT score, that's where you're really going to probably want to retake that. Most people's scholarship money comes from the merit-based scholarships because they are based on what you have done, your GPA and your SAT score. It has nothing to do with financial need. So if you're from, most of the time, students that struggle the most with financial aid stuff are middle class families where you say, we don't have extra money laying around to just plop on college bills, but they think that my parents make too much money for me to get a lot of need-based aid, right? So when we hear about grants, the Pell Grant, some of those are based on you having high financial need. Um, this is not about that. This merit-based stuff is just your GPA and your SAT score. So your family could be millionaires, but you would still get this chunk of money in scholarships. So, for everyone, a little bit of time in practice, 10 to 20 hours is what we kind of ask at a minimum. That could make the difference of thousands of dollars. The point is good scores equals more money. Practicing should be a no-brainer. We used to kind of say, and I should just remove this because even if you have a 2.5, like I said, the SAT score could pull you up if you have kind of a low GPA as far as your chance of getting into the school. Um, Doing the practice also helps reduce test anxiety. So any person that comes to me and says, I have test anxiety, if you're not spending hours doing the preparation, I'm gonna bug you to do that. Giving you like the preparation that I will kind of explain and show you a little bit, is in the same platform that the test is going to be in. So it's going to be exactly like the test day. It is held like the test is online on this thing called Blue Book, which is an app that you download on your Chromebook. So your home high school or we can help you get that downloaded if you're not able. I'm going to send you directions on that. But all of that is you're practicing in exactly what the test would be like and look like. So you have that familiarity instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm taking this test online. Never mind the content, just I'm just like nervous about how it's going to go. The practice will help you reduce that anxiety and build your confidence. Okay, so there's all these resources. I'm going to pop out of this presentation and show you these things, but there's two big websites that have a ton of resources. The first one, College Board, and the SAT within the College Board. College Board is the company that writes and runs and grades and all does everything for the SAT. So they have all that information because they're the ones writing the test, right? College Board also does AP testing. So you probably, if you've taken the PSAT or if you've taken AP class tests, you probably have a College Board account already. But if not, you will be setting that up with whatever your high school that you take the SAT with. That'll be something you'll do over the next few months to set up that account. Khan Academy is something you've probably already heard of. As a former math teacher, I use this a lot. It started as a website to help people with math skills, to give videos and practice problems and kind of additional, um, all these additional options to do preparation or practice. They actually have way more subjects on there now than math, and they have a whole hub that's all about getting ready for the SAT. So those two websites are where you can do all kinds of practice. Um, these are the websites. I'll be sending you these links, and I'm going to just pop out and kind of show you where to start. So the first one, this is the long website, but you can also just type in sat.org and it's going to bring you to that same page. So you can see there's options up here, SAT, SAT school day. These are pretty interchangeable, SAT and SAT school day. The practice and prep is going to be the same stuff. The PSAT stuff that you did earlier. So you're going to kind of ignore that. But under SAT, I would recommend reading through all of these. So my SAT is going to pop up and it's going to ask you to sign in. And if you have your login, that's what you're going to want to sign in under your existing login. If you don't have one, you're going to create one. But I would say check with your counselor at your home high school and find out how they are going to ask you to sign up. When you sign up, you're going to put an email address in. We recommend you make that your personal email address, like a Gmail or something like that. Your school emails will not exist once you're done. So when you graduate from KPAC or Algonac or Northern, when you graduate from SC4, you'll still have access, but you won't have access to your home high school emails once you've graduated. So you don't want to put that in because you're going to need to be able to sign into this account kind of for the rest of your life, depending on what you're going into. Like I still have to submit SAT scores for certain employment stuff in the education world. So you're going to want to make that an email that you'll be able to access the rest of your life, basically. So you can sign in there. You would have you might have PSAT scores that they can use your PSAT scores to kind of like streamline your practice. But if you don't have one, you can set it up for the first time. You don't even necessarily have to log in to see these other things. So this one, what's on the SAT, I really recommend, and this is a link I'll send you, going directly here and reading everything that's here. It explains the whole test, how it works, the time you have on each section, the logistics of it, basically, right? Like how much time you have, the number of questions. There's also on here, they break down kind of like the different topics. So the reading and writing section, they'll talk about it's these like content domains, the type of questions they're going to ask you. So I really recommend reading through all of those. Another thing to look at is going way down here to SAT practice and prep. So this is where they have all kinds of things. They'll talk about like going to build your study plan, click on get started, and it's going to tell you what to do, right? So the main thing is that you're going to download this Blue Book practice test. I'm going to include some attachments on the follow-up email here. And one of them is this practice quick start guide that walks you through step by step what to do kind of the best practice and preparation that you can do. So the main thing is downloading that Blue Book on your Chromebook on the device you will be using to take the SAT. And you can do all kinds of practice right in there. I don't have a way to show you that. It's pretty like it's easy to just kind of follow the prompts and click through things, and it will give you recommendations on what to do. Sorry, one sec. Losing my voice because I get excited about this stuff. So this whole quick start walks you through all of these things that I'm kind of just showing you a few things right now to get you started. But I'm going to include this. I have printouts in the office if anybody would prefer a paper copy that you can actually say, okay, I downloaded Blue Book, step 1. I'm going to check that off, cross it off, right? I'm motivated by checking things off. So if you want a paper copy, I have those for you. I'm also going to include this, even though we talked about it, it's just something from the SAT. Read through it, why you should practice for the SAT, but we've talked about that already. So on the build there, that page, the practice and prep page has all kinds of different links for you to start practicing. So again, you have to download Blue Book for a lot of this. They have this thing, My Practice 101, where basically you take some full length practice tests in Blue Book, and then it will give you this My Practice like dashboard that lets you view your scores, gives you details on what kind of questions you're getting right and wrong. It'll start pointing you to certain subjects or content areas that you're struggling with so that you can really pinpoint your preparation on things that you didn't maybe do well on. It also, from there, will link you to Khan Academy practice questions. Again, targeted to things based on these practice tests that you're taking. On Blue Book, the biggest thing that I would recommend, and it's on the quick start guide, is to do some full length practice tests. So what those are going to be just like the test. The timing is going to be just like it is on test day. It's going to give you the instructions, you read the instructions, and then you start the test. It'll help you learn to like navigate from question to question. There are things that you can do where you like bookmark a question or you can kind of flag something. So if you're on question 5 and you're like, oh gosh, I am pretty sure It actually lets you like cross off. So if you know, I know it's not A, I know it's not D, but I can't really decide between B and C, it'll let you cross out A and D, flag it, and that can be something where like maybe you make your best guess, flag it, and if you have time at the end of your time, you can go back to those questions that you flagged. The biggest thing on the SAT is the time constraints. So a lot of times when people say they're in my office and they're like, I didn't do so hot, I ran out of time. I was like taking a lot of time on every single question and not really managing the overall time. These practice tests are the best way to help you do that and to learn how to navigate through the test. And then they also, like I've already said, the more of these practice tests you take, the more data they have in that my practice thing that's going to start saying like, hey, you're killing it on algebra. Don't even waste time on that. You should be looking at these other test questions because you're doing great every time on those kinds of questions, but it's the higher level stuff you're struggling in. So those are really awesome and helpful. The My Practice 101, like that'll be just like a home base in Blue Book that you'll be able to access. Um, the other thing that we'll kind of point to probably as we get closer is what to do, what to bring on test day. And we will, for those of you taking the SAT with us, like homeschool students, we'll talk about this when you come in for like you come in for a session before the actual SAT, and your home high schools, if you go to one of the partner high schools, will do that as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that, like what to expect. But that could be worth reading through as well. These other things are more like things that will be helpful later on after you've taken the test, where you access your scores and things like that. The other thing that's really helpful is the Khan Academy link. You can go right here and do practice without even messing with Blue Book or the College Board stuff. But I really recommend tying the two things together because you're doing the full length practice test on College Board, and then it will point you to the skills that you need more practice on Khan Academy. So this main page is just kind of going to bring you to that. Basically, when you click Let's Go, the first thing it's going to make you do is create an account. I'm already logged in. So once you create your account and you come here, this is kind of your home page for the practice stuff. So they have it separated into the math and the reading and writing. So with math being kind of what I taught, I'm going to kind of work in here. So in the one link that I showed you over here, what's on the SAT is also here. So I would recommend whether you read it in the digital SAT math or the digital SAT reading and writing, these are the same, but do this in one of them, learning about the digital SAT. So again, this walks you through how the test works, the time limits, FAQs, frequently asked questions, just kind of what to expect, how to create a plan for your practice, how to use Blue Book. Like this is a really helpful link that helps you just kind of all understand the test and come up with a plan for your practice. And then they have the different test topics broken down. So like I said, algebra, this will be stuff from like even pre-algebra, algebra 1. So sometimes these are what people need to spend time on because it's just been a long time since you've taken those classes that you kind of need to go back and do some refreshing, right? So it does talk through like the different units, different these are like foundational topics that probably you've already learned and you just need to refresh your memory. Medium stuff might be things that you're learning right now in Algebra 2 or whatever class you're in. And then the advanced topics are things where, you might not have even gotten this, but you might get some of these based on like your current classes or if you've been in like higher level math, but it's worth doing all of these things. So you can see at the bottom here, there's this thing, course challenge. You can scroll all the way to the bottom here. There's unit tests, there's quizzes. There's all kinds of things for you to click on to start doing practice. So what I would say is you could start with the course challenge. It looks like I have started it. I haven't done it, but it brings you right to a test that's going to be on all of the math. And it's only 30 questions. So that's not going to be obviously as big as the whole math section on the SAT, but it's a start, right? So if you click Let's Go, it's going to just be questions that you're going to work the problem, choose your answer. I'm choosing something random. Click Net or click Check. So it tells me that's not right. So you can actually kind of take your time and play around with this, or you can just keep going. Or you can try again. It's kind of forcing me to do that. You can bop around to the different questions, I think. I guess it's not letting us move on without getting the right one. And I don't really want to work this problem. So that's why I keep quitting out of the challenge. But you would sit down and actually do that test. If you then say, okay, as you're doing things, it's going to start to fill in this little chart, which is like a game board. But this is nice where like you've done this unit. As you get questions right, these are going to start to be filled in with these icons that you've either mastered it, that you keep getting all those questions right, or you're doing good enough, you're proficient, you're familiar, or you tried it, or you haven't even started it, right? So you can go through every single topic and fill in that game board. You can do the larger unit quiz. Like, where was that one thing? I guess that was in the other screen. Sorry. You can do the course challenge. You can do unit quizzes. You can do, sorry, I had gotten to another screen. You can just click get started. Okay, so this is the whole unit. So this is where it breaks down all of the topics, or you can scroll and see there's quizzes that you could do. But this is where, let's say you keep getting questions wrong on solving linear equations and inequalities. So if you want to really get into each individual topic that's on the SAT, you can click here to start. And usually they're going to start with like, there's something that you're going to read. So it would be just like you were reading it out of your textbooks. It explains everything. It has vocabulary that you can click here and say, like, what is that? I've heard them talk about that. What's a variable? Symbols relate. So those are like your X, right? So you can read through the whole explanation, watch the video of somebody giving you examples. It gives you some practice problems, some examples that you can do. So you read through the whole thing, and then you would click next and watch the video. And so that's going to walk you through that whole topic. So you watch the video. Okay, cool. That's good. There's another video with harder examples. And then you click to the exercise. This is going to be 4 questions to practice what you just learned, right? So click Let's Go. And that's like just a little mini quiz. So as you're doing these and getting these right, that's where you fill that little chart in. And you could go topic by topic and spend like 100 hours on prep if you have it to give.